Have you ever thought about how prayer can change your life? The story of this woman will move you. She went through something amazing and saw something that changed her view of the world and faith forever. But what happened when she was on the edge of life and death? How did the prayers said for her help her come back? You'll find the answers to these questions in this incredible story. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss inspiring stories that make you think. And don't leave, watch the video until the end to see how prayer really changes reality. On the day Catherine's life changed, everything seemed normal. She was an ordinary woman, living her usual routine: work, home, family. But this day was special, though she didn't know it. Everything happened fast and unexpectedly. A sudden pain in her chest took her by surprise, and before she could understand what was happening, she fell to the floor. Fear filled her heart, and her breathing became heavy, like each breath was her last. At first, she thought it was just a heart attack. She had heard about it before. But when darkness started filling her mind, she realized it was more than that. There were no sounds, no movement. She was in complete silence. At that moment, she understood she was on the edge of another reality, a reality where her body didn't matter anymore. All she could feel was a strange lightness, like she was leaving her body behind. This feeling both surprised and scared her. It felt as if she was letting go of everything she knew and loved. And in this strange emptiness, when her body no longer felt heavy, only one thought came to her mind: what happens next? But the more she thought about it, the more she felt that her journey was just beginning. Her world grew darker and colder, but suddenly a light flashed in the darkness. It wasn't a bright light, but a soft, warm light, as if it came from the very depth of her soul. With each passing moment, this light grew brighter, filling her entire being. And then, she heard a sound. Not a normal sound, but something that couldn't be explained. It was like music, but deeper, as if reality itself was speaking to her. But what did this light and sound mean to her? What would happen next? Catherine couldn't understand, and more questions appeared, and she had to find the answers. This was only the first step in an incredible journey, and she would soon learn how prayer and faith can change everything she thought was real. As she moved further in this soft light, Catherine felt her body becoming less and less real. It was like floating in the air, feeling an incredible lightness. The darkness behind her started to fade, and with every move, the space around her became more alive, filled with a mysterious energy. Everything that seemed important in her old life faded into the background. She couldn't think of her work, worries, or fears anymore. They disappeared, like smoke. She felt herself in a space unlike anything she knew. There was no time or space here in the way she understood them. It seemed like there was no past or future here, only an endless moment, where she was simply herself, open to everything new. Everything around her was both familiar and completely unfamiliar. In this light-filled emptiness, she felt something bigger than life itself. It was like coming home, but in an unimaginable way. Suddenly, the soft light began to change, becoming brighter and brighter. And in its glow, Catherine began to see a figure standing before her. She couldn't tell who it was, but the feeling was so strong that her heart started to tremble. This figure radiated incredible kindness, love, and peace that reached her very core. Catherine's heart squeezed, and she understood that this was someone who had always been with her, even though she hadn't realized it in her life. "Are you ready to see the truth?" a voice asked, quiet and yet powerful, as if the world itself was speaking to her. Catherine froze, unable to answer, but her heart, her soul, knew this moment was very important. She nodded, and the figure, which was as bright as the universe itself, moved closer. The light grew even brighter, and now she could make out the features of this being. It was a person, but at the same time, it was more than a person. It was full of love and peace, and from its presence, Catherine felt her soul filling with new meaning, a new understanding of what truly matters in life. "Your prayer was heard," the voice said. "Now you will see how it changes everything, even here, in this world." At that moment, everything around Catherine began to change. The space that once felt empty filled with magnificence. She felt her soul connecting with something bigger than herself. The prayer she had said in her life was not just words, but a real power. A power that could change worlds, unite people with higher truths and wisdom. Everything she thought was ordinary now seemed like a part of some greater reality, part of a grand plan. Catherine couldn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew she was not alone. Everything was connected: her soul, the prayer, the light, the figure before her, this world. It was all one, and she felt a deep unity with everything around her. Now a new path opened before her, a path she had to walk. Her prayer had become the key that opened the doors to this world. And before her stood a choice: to return or stay. Catherine stood before this glowing being, her heart pounding so loudly it felt like it might burst. She felt her soul reaching toward the light, as if she had found something important, something unimaginable. This light was the source of life and understanding. It was seeking her, and now she realized that prayer was the bridge that had brought her here. "Prayer," the voice said with a deep clarity, as though it was reaching into the very corners of her soul, "is not just words, it's not just a request. It's a power you attract into your life. It's your way of being heard, of being seen. You create a connection with something bigger than you, and that connection opens doors to what you could never understand without it." The words she heard resonated with her inner world, awakening deep feelings that had long been hidden in her heart. She had always believed in the power of prayer, but now she realized that prayer wasn't just words spoken in solitude. It was a living communication with something bigger than herself. It wasn't just a plea to God, it was a connection to the Creator, the source of love and light. Once she accepted this understanding, her soul filled with light. She felt her heart grow, as her faith and love became part of something bigger than she could have imagined. In this place, amid this light, she understood that prayer was the bridge that connected her to heaven, to something beyond human understanding. The light surrounding Catherine began to transform into something more concrete. She saw, beyond the light, another image, an invisible bridge stretching from her soul to distant, mysterious shores. This bridge wasn't just a symbol, it was real, a living thing, connecting her to the unseen world. Catherine realized that this was the moment when prayer truly changes reality. She had become part of this bridge, which connected her to something greater and eternal. Prayer had become for her not just an act of asking, but an act of love and trust. She understood that prayer wasn't only about receiving something, it was also a way to understand that behind every word is depth, and behind every call to God is real power. This was the moment of liberation, the moment of truth. Every step she took in this light was a step toward a deeper understanding of how prayer works in her life, and how it can change not just her, but the world around her. Through this bridge, Catherine felt how her prayer connected her to everyone who had ever prayed, who had ever asked for help, who had ever called to God with an open heart. She realized that prayer wasn't an individual act, but a collective effort that unites all believers. It's a powerful channel through which the energy of love, understanding, and healing flows. And through this bridge, she had become part of a greater force, a force that changes everything around us. This bridge, this light, its power, all became part of her being. She could no longer see prayer as something superficial. Now she knew, prayer wasn't just a word, It was magic that creates reality, that connects worlds, and that allows each of us to change our life. When Catherine realized that her soul had become part of the light that filled her to the brim, she felt incredible peace. She was in complete harmony with this world, and her existence felt endless, like the universe itself. All the fear and anxiety that once troubled her in earthly life vanished, like smoke drifting away in the wind. Everything was so bright, peaceful, and clear. But suddenly, as if some invisible force began pulling her back, her mind, full of light and love, began to leave this wonderful place. Catherine tried to hold on, her soul resisting, feeling this world as her true home, but the force that pulled her back was unrelenting. "Don't go, please," she whispered, but her voice was so weak, it seemed to come from far away, not from herself. She didn't want to leave this place, which was full of blessing and love. She didn't want to return to a world where suffering and pain could once again cloud her heart. Yet something inside her knew that returning was inevitable. No matter how much she wanted to stay, her body on earth still needed her. Catherine felt her soul begin to detach from the light, as if an invisible hand was holding her back. As she sank into the physical reality, she felt the heaviness of her return. At first, it was a slight discomfort, as if someone was pulling her deeply. Her body began to feel real again, as if she was regaining control of it. She felt every nerve, every cell, every part of her matter. The pain returned, but this time it was not the same pain she had known before. It was the pain of cleansing, painful but necessary for her soul to return and complete its mission. She felt her breathing again, hard and heavy. She felt the air filling her lungs, how the lack of it blocked her chest. She heard sounds. They were muffled and distant, as though they were coming through thick water. Catherine noticed how with each breath her body became more real, and her consciousness began reconnecting with the physical world. In her ears, voices sounded, voices of people. Someone was saying her name. She couldn't understand who it was. Everything was becoming clearer and clearer. She tried to open her eyes, but a mist stood before her. Only after a few seconds did the mist start to fade, and familiar surroundings appeared. Little by little, layer by layer, she felt her return becoming more real. Catherine heard the beat of her heart, muffled footsteps nearby, and saw figures beginning to take shape. She could feel her body, its physical weight and stability. She felt a pulling pain, as if her muscles were waking up from a long sleep, and it hurt, but still, she was back in her body. She was alive. With each moment, the clarity grew. Catherine realized she was in the hospital. There were tubes and wires connected to her breathing machine. Her breathing was hard, as if she had just returned to life after a long time without it. Tears ran down her cheeks. She was back. She was in her body again, and despite all the pain, she was grateful. The realization that she could breathe again, feel again, and change her life filled her heart with gratitude. "I'm back," she whispered, and it was a statement. She had returned with a mission. A mission that became clear to her in that light, in that place. And now, returning, she knew she had to tell everyone what she saw and how prayer really changes reality. Her gaze was full of determination. Even though her body was weak, even though she was back in this world, she knew her journey had just begun. She was ready to start a new journey, a journey with faith, with prayer, with the understanding of the power she now carried in her heart. When Catherine finally fully regained consciousness, she felt how the world around her had become completely different. Everything was familiar but somehow strange. In every detail, every sound and look, she felt a new reality, one she couldn't fully explain. After the experience, her view of life became deeper and brighter, as if she had gained the ability to see through the ordinary outer shells. At first, after her return, her state was strange. Her body, despite its exhaustion and weakness, seemed foreign. But her mind, her soul, was filled with something absolutely new. It was a feeling of lightness, freedom, and at the same time a huge responsibility. Everything she had experienced couldn't be a coincidence. She felt that her return wasn't just a resurrection, but a task that she had to complete. And she had to tell everyone about the power of prayer, how it can truly change reality. The days she spent in the hospital became a time of deep reflection for Catherine. In her eyes, the world seemed to be painted in brighter colors. Every day became special, every morning a miracle. How many times had she not noticed the beauty of simple things like sunlight coming through the window or the smell of fresh air after rain? Now everything seemed incredibly important, as if every moment was a gift. But there was another side to her new perception. She could no longer look calmly at the suffering, pain, and despair around her. The power of prayer that she felt in that light, where her soul was filled with the divine world, made her see the world as something that could be transformed. She understood that every person could change their life if they pray sincerely and from the heart. Prayer could not only calm the soul but truly influence the world, guiding it toward good, light, and love. Now Catherine felt that her life was not just filled with new energy, but with absolute meaning. She was no longer afraid. When before she worried about what would happen to her loved ones, what would happen to the world, now she knew that prayer wasn't just words, it was a power that could heal, change, and support. She understood that everything that happened in her life had a deeper meaning than she had ever realized before. Each day became a new step in her journey, a search for how she could change this world. She felt that she had to share this incredible truth that she understood the moment her soul left her body. She knew that the world needed this truth. What if everyone started praying sincerely? What if everyone understood how powerful their inner light could be? Prayer would become the tool that could transform people in this world, giving them the strength to live in harmony with the divine plan. Catherine was no longer the same. Now her days were filled with new meaning, and her heart was open to the light and love she could not only feel but also pass on to others. With each day, she felt her connection to the higher forces growing, and though she was in this world, her soul was already in the light she had seen. And with this new perspective on life, she was ready to share the truth that had now become her essence. If you like this story, if it touched you as much as it touched us, don't forget to like it. This helps us share such inspiring stories with more people. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the power of prayer? How has it changed your life? We'd love to hear your feedback. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories that make you think and inspire change. Thank you for being with us.